This is an INGENIUM University podcast.
Welcome to episode 4 of the INGENIUM Podcast. I'm Annabelle O'Grady-Kennedy, a second-year visual communications student here at MTU. Recently, I had the incredible opportunity to attend the INGENIUM Junior School in Finland at XAMK University. It was such an unforgettable experience, and I highly encourage anyone to apply if they get the opportunity. In this episode, I had the chance to talk with a fellow INGENIUM alum, Nic Flanagan. Nic is currently pursuing a PhD at the Crawford School of Art and Design here at MTU. She recently attended the INGENIUM Senior School at the University of Oviedo in Spain. It was so great to chat with Nic and compare our experiences. While each programme was tailored to our academic levels, we found many similarities. Ultimately, we both saw the experiences as incredibly positive, memorable, and beneficial, not just academically, but personally as well. That we both have just recently been on INGENIUM is great.
And you were on the junior school?
Yeah.
And that was in Finland?
In Finland, yeah.
Brilliant.
So in a place called Mikkeli, about 2 hours outside of Helsinki.
Oh, nice.
So it was cool to not just go to the capital and see kind of the touristy side or the side that people would think of Finland as. It was cool to go to a smaller, it was a city, but it felt like a town, honestly. It was really small, really nice. And as you know yourself, just such a cool experience to kind of be with the locals and see the country in a different sense than if you were to go on your own. I loved that aspect of it.
Yeah. Spain was kind of similar. So I was in the senior school and we were in Oviedo in Asturias, up the north of Spain, which is kind of funny because anytime I would have travelled to Spain, it would generally be to get some sun that we're not getting here. So I would always go to the south or I'd go to an island. So going to the north, I think their climate feels like much similar. So it's maybe an experience I wouldn't have done on my own.
Yeah.
But also just being there, we made so many friends with, I had incredible partners in my final presentation project who were both in the university. So shout out to Maria and Kolba.
Oh, great.
But it was just an experience I wouldn't have had otherwise.
So I presume the senior school is similar enough to the junior school where, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you get put into groups and then at the end of the week you present your case that you've been working on?
Yeah, so we were put into groups, I think, the week before, based on a topic that wasn't any of our specialty area, which was really interesting. But it was more based on combining interesting courses. So one of the women that I was working with, she's doing her PhD in restoration in relation to ancient books and texts. I hope I have that correct. And the other, Maria, was looking at poetry and literature and care and kind of quite a feminist approach to literature. And then I should probably say who I am and what I do.
Absolutely.
So I'm Nic Flanagan, and I am a PhD student exploring interdisciplinary practice from a practice-based point of view as an artist, curator, and researcher. So I'm in the fine art department in Crawford College.
Oh, love that.
So it was really cool. It was but we had the final day presentation, but I think I gave 4 presentations besides that.
Yeah.
It was boot camp.
Absolutely. It was exhausting, but a good kind of adrenalizing exhaustion.
Yeah.
I suppose. Yeah, I presented on the first day just a kind of summary of what we were going to do throughout the day, our mission statement, or throughout the week, sorry. And then I presented on the last day with 2 of my teammates. And I suppose I was a bit naive going into it. I thought it would just be kind of a classroom presentation.
Yeah.
But it was I think it was in front of 100 people, stakeholders included. So that was really nerve-wracking, but also such a great experience to take into my career and kind of know that I can do that.
Yeah. And what are you studying?
So I'm studying visual communications.
Oh, cool.
Which is also through Crawford, but I'm based on this campus.
Yeah. But it was really cool with INGENIUM particularly. I saw the call come in, I think it was at the end of last year, maybe November. And I was sitting there and I was kind of having a hard time trying to figure out how to, when I'm in that pocket where I'm not physically in contact with that many people, but my work is about interdisciplinarity and working with other departments and other people. I was like, how am I going to meet people? Like how wouldn't say lonely, I think that would be too far, but I was definitely not sure what my outlets were.
I completely get you.
And I got the email and I read through it and I was like, this is clear. Ours was to do with senior school, was clear scientific communication and working with others and trying to figure out how to present complex topics really simply. And I just went, okay, this is my PhD. I'm going to apply.
Amazing.
It was like, was it similar?
Yeah, so I actually am a mature student. So my reasoning for applying was that I wanted to kind of meet people, so very similar to you. And as much as I love my classmates, they're about 19 years old.
Yeah.
So I was hoping by going on this journey that I would meet kind of people of all ages, all backgrounds and from different countries. So that was really my main factor in applying. And then, reading through the brief that we got, it just excited me. It was kind of everything I was looking for. Not only was it in Finland, which I've always wanted to visit, it also just was a chance to maybe lean more into my entrepreneurial side, which I haven't really practiced a lot. Like being in a creative field, I feel like I just kind of focus on digital media and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to put myself outside of my comfort zone and challenge myself, because I don't really think I'm quite business minded. But now after going to Finland, I'm like, whoa, I can kind of do anything now.
Oh, but that is so huge. I'm going to try and not go on a tangent because that is a huge interest point of mine. But there is such a distinct crossover between entrepreneurial mindsets and professional arts practices or creative practices.
Just don't think you have it, and then you put yourself into that situation.
I think we're taught how to answer complex and maybe like unanswered problems, to try and find our own funding, to try and figure out where theory fits in, where it doesn't. We talk to people, we're not just talking to like stakeholders, it's like members of public also see creative pieces. So we have to think about everybody. We have to think about every stage in the chain of like design, philosophy, production, feasibility, and also then having the kind of like studio-based, like where you, the critique system, where it's like, there's so much space for just like continuously learning and like knowing.
And there's no room for hiding.
And there's no room for hiding.
Yeah,
and like you have to know how to
line.
share what you're thinking on a regular, and take criticism in a way. But it crosses over with entrepreneurship so much, and intrapreneurship, and kind of more so I think than we're taught.
Yeah, it's definitely something I wasn't aware of. I just kind of put myself in a box, and now experiencing that, and I didn't think I was a public speaker, but it's only a week, but it feels like so much longer. You learn so much in the week, and I would definitely say to anyone who is a bit nervous of going, just throw yourself into it, and you get out what you put in. So if you want to be the person in your group who just kind of does the bare minimum, as long as you have a sound group, it's okay, you can scrape by like that. But I would not recommend that, because then you're not going to come away with the same qualifications or skills. And like everyone's there to do the same thing and get the same experience, learn. So you really make such strong connections, and it kind of lifts you up throughout the week, and you come away from the end of the week, I know I did anyway, and I was like, whoa. Like I just did that. That was
unreal.
A blur, kind of.
I think like I've had a few experiences with particularly interdisciplinary programs, and like a lot to do with like communication and sharing and all these different things. But this was the first where I was like, yes, that hit the nail on the head, because it was like we were in spaces which were so supported and structured in a way that gave you the space to kind of go, oh, this isn't about me. It was almost like role playing when we entered, because for senior school anyway, the first 3-4 presentations we gave, actually also including our final one, they weren't about our research, but it was about all the skills we needed to share our research, or to be better researchers or better academics or better professionals. But you got to step out of the things which feel maybe sometimes too close to you, like your research topic and the things you care about, and maybe that you've learned to identify your personality with, and just focus on like the practicalities, being like, okay, how do I share this better? How do I like work in a team better?
Yeah.
How do I like offer the skills I have without stepping over other people? How do I help other people be confident? Like we had moments in one of my groups where some people started to feel quite nervous about two-thirds of the way through writing what we were writing. We had split off into groups. We had this really interesting idea and really well-founded through all of our experiences of life. But when it came to the idea of like getting it into one succinct thing, people started to panic because they were thinking about it as if they're presenting, you know, their MA, their PhD, their like really close to their heart research. And I remember just stopping and just a few of us just kind of being like, it's okay.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to feel that little bit of pressure, or like you want your outcome to be the best it can be. But I mean, this senior school sounds a bit more intense.
We've signed up for it to be more intense.
Yeah,
okay,
for us anyway, Sabine, who was our kind of organizer, CEO for the week, she just kept saying, have fun with it. And yeah, it's okay to feel stressed, but we're not here to stress. We're here to learn and have fun. So I definitely did experience that in my group, that kind of panic towards the end.
But it would also showed up, especially in the senior school, and I think that's like an important thing as well. It's that there are different entry points, like senior and junior. So there's also nothing to fear entering it at your level because you're being selected for your level.
Exactly.
But it was definitely a difference between the first day, and you saw a lot of people who seemed to still be carrying, including myself, the stresses or the bits of baggage that they carried from their own research and their own projects and their own whatever they're doing at home. And then as conversations started to, you know, build, and we did a few like team building activities, some which were more successful than others and more enjoyed by the group than others. But at the very least, they got us kind of all understanding, we're coming to it from quite a similar position, quite a similar place, and venting what we thought were only our problems. So for certain people, they were problems related to maybe not feeling supported enough in their practice back home. Or just kind of feeling like they're at the stage in their research where they're a bit lost. And I always find, and I always try and encourage it, that being really transparent in that. So I would lead into all these conversations going, here's what I'm having trouble with.
Yeah, and bounce ideas off each other. And I'm sure, I know I did. I came back feeling refreshed and my creativity was at an all-time high. So I can imagine for PhD students, it's kind of a break, but also like they were still working and using their brain power. But I'm sure they came back maybe clinging on to some of your ideas or other people in their group.
I think also just like a huge thing is understanding that we were all in the room, we were all doing incredibly different things. We were from different fields, we were at different points in our life, different ages, everything, but that there were shared experiences.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like
a really cool thing. It felt very European as well.
It was great. Whoa. I love Europe. Let's go Europe.
Absolutely. I felt really proud to
be European
and have this opportunity presented to us.
Yeah.
Like obviously being Irish, I saw, especially being there, the Irish really like stuck together. We were strong, we were fun, people kind of gravitated towards us, which was a really cool thing to witness.
Yeah.
And obviously we played it cool. We didn't want to be
I mean, like, sophisticated, demure.
It was really interesting to see how the dynamics between other countries played out.
Yeah.
I really loved seeing that. It was very...
It's really interesting. I've had a few experiences working with like international representatives from different places, and it's always very interesting to see the dynamics.
Yeah, this was my first experience, so I just really soaked it all in.
And you see like, I guess like the different approaches to sharing and to socializing and to even beyond, you know, going out at night. But even just within the space, like I would say I'm my father's daughter, and I could probably talk to the wall if I need to.
Yeah.
And you could see that, you know, maybe some of my favorite people towards the end were on the Finnish team. I have a shout out to the Finns. I have a soft spot for.
They're great.
I love the directness.
People.
I love the calmness. But it meant that maybe at the start, like they weren't the ones running around with the Irish, you know, talking to everybody. But by day 2, it was like you were meeting people where they were again. It was you were meeting people in they knew they were safe, you knew you were safe. You were kind of coming to it with your natural socializing and natural skills and communication skills, and kind of finding ways that the two mesh together.
Yeah, that's something I needed to be aware of, because in my group I was the only English native speaker. So they kind of relied on me, and I didn't want to be more of a leader than I should have been just because I spoke English.
Yeah.
So that was something I tried to balance out throughout the week and make them feel comfortable with speaking English, which, oh my gosh, when people whose first language isn't English speak English, I'm just so amazed, because I can't even imagine being able to fluently speak it.
But being able to fluently speak about research,
Absolutely.
about complex,
it's so impressive.
I'm attending as a native English speaker, looking at how I can more clearly talk about complex topics. And I'm like, you're doing that in your second, maybe third language.
It's amazing.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's something that I tried as well. I found myself, even when I was calling my husband back on the phone in the evening, he's like, you're talking at a different pace.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I'm translating myself as I'm talking. Not that I was ever speaking a different language, but I was trying to place my words in a way that I would make them feel the most comfortable
and be considerate. Absolutely. Yeah. Big shout out to
everyone.
It's so incredible. And from them I learned so much understanding and patience as well, because you obviously do have to be aware you're talking to 5 people you don't know, first of all. I can be a bit like the Finnish, a bit blunt. Yeah. So I did have to take a step back at moments and be like, okay, I'm not the CEO here or anywhere.
I think it's like, so a lot of my art practice and my curatorial practice look at the perspective of neurodivergency from lived experience, but also just as an interesting point from the creative arts, because we do have a really high proportion of people within creative art fields and practices who identify as neurodivergent. And one of those things that I think about is like meeting people exactly where they are. And also just like making sure that I'm supporting, I'm speaking, and I'm listening. And I think that like critical listening skill was like a massive one, especially when we had the advantage of being native speakers. That it was like, okay, my job here might be to be the one who talks when we present, but it also might be that my job is to critically listen.
Yeah, and also to kind of mediate if they're lost in translation. They would look at me sometimes and I would be like, oh, he means that and she means that. And then they'd carry on. So we wore many hats.
Were there any points at which you felt like there was some competition?
No, not really. Not competition, but there was definitely some points where ideas weren't being met. Like 2 people had different approaches. So that was definitely interesting to kind of iron out. And then they would kind of look at me to be like the ultimate decider, which was tough because, you don't
want to be in charge either.
Yeah, and you don't want to hurt people's feelings. So I guess that was a good learning curve. But our mentor did kind of step in and maybe I don't want to use the word pushed us to one.
Pushes are fine.
So I suppose that was good. But that's what we signed up for, to bounce ideas off. And luckily we were all mature enough not to get a bit bunged down by it or upset with someone else's opinion. Nothing was that deep in the end,
I think for us, so there's that trepidation, like there's that fear when you enter the first day. And you could feel that everyone was in their groups, and some groups were wearing their jumpers with you knew where they were from, and you were kind of placing people like that. And then even by the time we got to the afternoon where we had to do a gymkhana, and so we, like a scavenger hunt around the city, which was exhausting.
Yeah, that sounds fun though.
It was fun, but it was a lot. But it kind of, they naturally broke us up. So as we started to like break up from our groups, I think people started to separate from maybe the competitiveness that they have to have in their own
Yeah.
fields just to stay afloat, you know.
That's a nice thing to do on day one, because I did feel like once it hit a break in the day or lunchtime and you'd leave your group,
Yeah.
you kind of associate your group with just work, which is
Yeah.
maybe something that could improve, because my team were so amazing, but I did naturally feel like I made friends elsewhere, or
Yeah.
I wanted to see what else was out there. And once you leave the table in the work, you leave your group, which...
So were you in the same group all week?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So with us, and I think one of the big strengths of the senior school was that we weren't in the same group any day.
Oh, wow.
So you do it, I think I had like a crossover once with one person,
Wow.
but we were changing. So you had to change who you were talking to, what you were talking to, backgrounds, your topics changed every day as well. We also had different lectures in the morning, which would kind of preface what the activity was. So one of the days we were talking about digital preservation of cultural heritage. Another day it was accessible information using AI to enhance critical thinking skills in teenagers. I can't remember what the third and fourth ones were, but they were also quite diverse. So we swapped around.
So we had a courage workshop.
Oh, cool.
Which I also loved, but yours, definitely align more with where you're at in your academic journey.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was really, but we had like after that first day, I think it's not that you didn't think anybody would be, maybe I'm using air quotes here, but like, competition in your field, or that at some stage you might be competing for something similar, but it kind of just took you so far away from your own thing that it was just like, oh, cool, you're also really interested in research. I'm interested in research. Tell me what you're... And running joke with a couple of us was that the academic competition we had in the space was actually on our lunch breaks through the game Uno.
Oh.
Yeah, it's called Uno No Mercy.
That's great.
And I would really recommend it, but I wouldn't recommend it if you're feeling maybe a little bit low or a little bit vulnerable, because it's a little vicious. It's an extended version of Uno. Where they're kind of like extra cards, and you can you pass it back, and you can basically torture each other a little bit more.
Was this from a Spaniard, or
no?
Was
so
it...
two of the girls from Rouen brought it with, so Kenza and Yasmin.
Love that.
So they just kind of first day, I got paired with them. I got paired with Kenza for the gymkhana, and we were also out of breath. Oviedo is like all hills, so we weren't technically talking that much. But by the Tuesday, I just remember she approached me, and she was just like, kind of like this bag in front of her and her coat on still, and she was like, hey, do you want to play Uno? And I was like...
It's a great icebreaker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to. And then, we kind of just grabbed who was around us at that time.
That's
we played
great.
the first game, and then people saw us playing, and they were like, oh, can I play the second game?
Yeah, it's great to have. That's a good tip for anyone going. Bring cards, or bring something that can bring you together. We were lucky enough on our campus, on the XAMK campus, there was a foosball table, so we would all gather around there, got fishes also, the ball flying everywhere. And then obviously in Finland there's the snow, so at our break we would run out, make snow angels, or have a snowball fight. Yeah, we had a lot of high energy people on our week, so it was great. It was just such a laugh. Did you guys do any, I know you said you did the scavenger hunt, did you do any more kind of excursions in Spain?
We did. So on the, we had something almost every night. Or every day. So on one of the days we went to City Hall, and we got to sit in on a local parliament kind of sitting. A few people, including Laura Tonks from my team, got to go up and pretend to be the chair of the local council. And then, we were kind of treated to a lot of culinary experiences as well. So we'd go to these kind of dinner setting called Espiche. I apologize if I've mispronounced that in any way, shape or form. But it's I guess it's the equivalent of you finished work and you go for not a heavy dinner, but a bit of food, and you're standing and you kind of walk around and socialize, and you have a drink or two. So we were brought to a few places to kind of have that experience, which was really cool. The food was delicious. The cider was interesting. Have you ever heard of Asturian cider?
No, never.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's for me, but the
okay.
experience was really
Yeah,
interesting.
at least you tried it.
So it's, so they take the bottle and they kind of hold it like quite high up over their head. And then their glass is down by their knee.
Cool. Okay.
And they like pour it. And so it's like the aeration is a huge part of the process. But it's quite, I would say, fermented. It's not as sweet as...
Like a kombucha.
It's like a kombucha cider.
Yeah.
So it's really, and they give you just a shot
Probably healthy
size of
for
it.
you.
I think the local population thinks so. I'm not sure if I did enough research to find out, but it was just, it was like quite a visual and like fun thing. So like even though the taste wasn't necessarily for me, I was like, I'm only here once. Yeah, I'll do it. So like we'd be at an Espice, and somebody would be next to me, and I'm like having a conversation, like, hey, let's have a cider together. And they'd be like, okay, cool. And it's like it was a really visual and like fun thing to do instead of just having a drink, and like
that sounds cool.
And it was cool, and they had like sawdust all over the floor, so it's like when it spills, it's like a very cultural experience.
Yeah.
We went to Guion, so it's a outside Guion to where they make the cider as well.
Oh, lovely.
So we had a tour of the is it still a brewery?
Yeah,
cider.
So.
I think so. Yeah. I don't know. Vineyard, brewery, the whole lot. But we had a tour of like how it's made and where it's made, and then we had another Espice, which was really cool. And just kind of got to spend some time together.
Love that, food and drink orientated.
Completely.
Exactly what you need. And in a colder climate as well. Like you don't want to really be outside a lot. And
not too structured enough that there was ways for all of us to like be in the same space and like not separate off into cliquey groups or anything like that. But then free enough that it was really natural that we'd walk around and we'd chat to each other.
Yeah, that's what they called it a winter experience. That's what it felt like. We were split up into groups, but we had the freedom to walk around. So we were basically in this unbelievable setting out on a frozen lake. It was like a community house. Yeah. They said where kids go to learn about their confirmation. Yeah. But not like, don't picture what you would think in Ireland, because it was just absolutely stunning. And we got to pick from 8 activities. We got to pick 2. So there was like ice hockey, there was snowshoeing through the forest, and then there was an option to walk barefoot through the forest. I picked ice fishing because I've never been fishing before. I thought it would be a really cool experience, which it was, but also didn't catch anything, and I was just standing there for 45 minutes, so it was very freezing. And then we kind of did flat skiing across a frozen lake.
Cross-country kind of
stuff.
stuff.
That was amazing. Yeah. That was so cool. We had a tour guide. He brought us to these cracks along the lake and told us that, like, I think it's 30 centimetres is okay to be on a frozen lake, but any less, you're in danger. Yeah. And he kind of showed us how to know if you're on thin ice before it's too late. Yeah,
I mean, we could use that in academic settings
definitely.
Too. Yeah, when am I on thin ice?
And then at the end, I think the best experience, we went swimming in the frozen lake.
Amazing.
And I love doing cold plunges here and going sea swimming, so that was incredible. And me and 2 of the girls, shout out Aoife and Maeve, we went into the frozen lake, and there was a Finnish man kind of just acting as a lifeguard, I'd say, just making sure we were okay. We were in maybe for about 2.5 minutes, and he was like, girls, you need to get out, you're crazy. And I have him on video being like, crazy Irish girls. And he told us that we stayed in for longer than the average Finnish person. Wow. So that made us feel really great.
I think it's like, it's 1 minute for every degree it is outside. That's how you're supposed to stay in. I think
I
was
idea
told
what the temperature was.
I'd say it was pretty
It was insane.
I'd say we were pushing it.
Yeah, definitely.
Really on the verge.
Aoife, who we were with, she's a lecturer here, and she is a badass. Okay. Like, she was like, come on, girls, you can do it. And we were like, oh, I'm only in here because you are.
You are much better than me. I wouldn't be able to dip my toe. I'd be watching you.
You'd be surprised with what you could do if you were surrounded by the right company, because you just felt amazing after it, and taking that moment you know, to be calm and be still in the water after, I guess it was halfway through the week. But it was just so lovely to shed off any stress or doubts that you have and really experience Finland.
Yeah, no, I think that's like a full like cultural submersion.
Yeah, and then the sauna after definitely helps.
Sauna's life. Sauna's
it's
great.
amazing.
I will do the sea swimming in Ireland, but I will do it with the sauna.
Yeah,
so
that's okay.
My friends who might be listening to this are like, she doesn't always do the swim, and I'm like, but I'll do the sauna.
But don't watch.
I'll watch.
I'll support.
I'll pretend I'll go in. But it's no, we had we didn't have anything as physical. I think also like the climate was more comfortable, like more standard.
Yeah.
It did get a little bit warm, but there was no. I don't think anybody was jumping in the ocean.
I think the thing with Finnish people is because they're used to the cold. It's all they know, so they're just very naturally outdoorsy, which I love. And they don't drink a lot. And it was just like a detox, really. It was stunning.
Yeah,
I would highly recommend it.
We did have one evening, possibly the Wednesday, where it was like they set up a night for us in this like student bar, and it was fun. It was a good laugh, but like the best part of it, which is the opposite of a detox or like anything, is that like we didn't even have, you know, we were just all giddy because it was in a general student bar. And so the food was being passed out, but I think a few local students had also heard that there was going to be just random food.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of competition to try and get what was being put on the tables. And so we had like this game where one of the girls, Yasmin, who like she was able to wiggle her way in and she would stick herself almost to the back of the server and get to the table first and bring us stuff back. So we all got really, really giddy, and a really nice mix of us as well. And we just went, we go for like a takeaway.
Yeah.
And it was just this moment where we were walking out. There was like maybe 3-4 different universities in the group. And we were all just laughing and turned a corner, and there were some people from the German university. And we were like, hey, where are you going? They're like, oh, we're looking for food. And we were like, come with us. And it was the most wholesome, unwholesome kind of kebab shop moment I've ever had in my entire life.
Those are so important, and we had similar. So two of the Irish lads, Mark and Oisin, scouted out a karaoke bar of all places in this tiny Mikkeli place in Finland. Very unassuming, but just such a laugh. And more people from the INGENIUM Junior School were popping up throughout the night. And by the end of it, there was maybe 25 of us up on the stage singing Zombie.
Unreal.
So it was just such a class bonding experience.
Yeah.
And then you go in the next day feeling like you really know the people that you're working with, and it makes you present better, it makes you enjoy it more.
Yeah.
So I would definitely think it's not only inside the classroom, you have the whole experience of outside as well.
Yeah.
And that's when you really make the connections.
Yeah. I think also it's like I have to be quite conscious of like my battery. I guess like how I decide I'm going to budget my energy.
Yeah.
And that's just something I know about myself. But it was the combination of things being structured but also free in a lot of ways, where I didn't feel like I had to use a lot of my own, like, I didn't have to negotiate so many different things. So I didn't have to plan my own day, but I was also free to maybe be quiet for an hour, which meant that in other settings where I would struggle to do activities from 9 in the morning and then stay out till 11, I was walking home to my hotel, like, you know, stone cold sober, but like late, and kind of going, oh, that was nice. Like it was a really supported way to be social and to be fully present. Yeah. But in a natural way. Like I wasn't pushing myself I wasn't networking, I didn't have business cards, I didn't have anything. I was having natural. I made some really, cheesy as, but I made some really beautiful connections with people. And by, day 3, 4, you find yourself kind of, I would have gone to bat for a lot of people. And you find I think also because of how much we were crossing over, you found like a lot of small connections with quite different people to you, and people maybe different age groups, different backgrounds, different approaches, and you just kind of, you were able to find, because none of you were in your topic area, you were able to find things to connect with, and also things to kind of, I think, hold on to in like a really nice like friend way, where I was like, okay, cool. We have something that allows us to like meet, which is coming to this place, and an interest in research and an interest in clear communication and stuff. But that takes away some of the pressure of the like laying the groundwork of a friendship. And then he just more easily was able to be like, okay, cool. I will defend you. I'll work with, you know, like if there's anything, like you were able to form a deeper connection.
Definitely. I know at the end of the week we had our gala or our closing ceremony, and people were emotional. Yeah. And you're kind of thinking to yourself, I've only known these people for a week. Like, why do I feel sad leaving?
I think it's just like, it's like when you're still in your bachelor's.
Yeah, second year.
Second year, that's beautiful. Lovely, nice and chill. But it's, as someone who is significantly older, I won't tell you
well,
how
I'm a
much
mature
older.
student, so you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, yeah, but you know, like I graduated in 2016. Okay. From my my bachelor's. And it's one of those things that when you, for me, maybe it's a creative field thing as well, but it was the first experience I had where I didn't have to figure out what the basis of developing my friendship was. I just had this core group of people who, even if we weren't getting on all the time, there was something that connected us. And so it felt like a really natural place to be. Like a really, not always safe in that sense, but it was a safer place to be yourself. So like the emotions leaving there was high, but then when you go into very tailored and specific programs like INGENIUM, where everyone is there not just because they're interested in a similar thing, but also they have the same drive. Yeah, the drive was it's palpable, but you're also looking at them kind of going, okay, cool, we have an additional thing that we connect on. And it just gives a depth of like, you're like, okay, cool, there is a crossover in our personalities, which makes you feel kind of safe and seen, and it's hard to leave because you know you're going home and you don't have it. You know? Yeah, and I think I loved to like see the natural progression throughout the week and look back on the Monday versus the Friday. And I think I said earlier, I went into the week a bit naive, not really knowing what to expect, and just being blown away by everyone's level of skill, and being really inspired by everyone, and kind of having a sense of imposter syndrome. But then by the end of the week, I had a lot more belief in myself. Yeah. Which I think everyone should always believe in themselves and be true to themselves. So that's always a great lesson to learn. And there was just so many lessons, like so many challenges along the way, so many eye-opening factors. And you don't only learn about the other people in your group or on the junior school, INGENIUM Junior School, but you learn so much about yourself. I think that's the biggest takeaway, because it's only you going through this. I'm going to posit the difficult question, but was there anything negative? Was there anything that kind of like, not that you didn't overcome it, was there anything that either during the days or in the relationships or like in the negotiation that you were kind of like, okay, I don't like this? On a personal level, I can't think of anything. Maybe like internally I butted heads with one person in particular, but I won't go into that. But it never kind of came to fruition just because I was wanting to be professional about it. So that was kind of a little bit of a dip in the fun. But I didn't let it affect me too much because it's not what I was there for. Yeah. So that was, once again, a learning curve. I think How many times will I say learning curve? Yeah, I mean, it's an important learning curve. Yeah. Like we had, I think also similarly, you can quite quickly see, sometimes you're not going to get along with everyone. Absolutely. Like, you know, you sometimes in a group of 80, right away. Like, I wouldn't expect that. Exactly, but then it's kind of how you handle it. And I think there were certain points, particularly with I think there was a conflict in in the groups, maybe with not with how people presented, but sometimes the information they presented, and like being totally aware that none of the projects we were presenting were our research areas. So it was very quick information we were gathering and maybe not fully rounded, but it was just interesting to maybe have the conversations after and to be able to bring points up to people and kind of be like, oh, okay, like I appreciate that this isn't your area, but maybe I wouldn't say things in that way. Maybe I would. And from a person who comes from a, like curation comes from the word care. So care is my background. I found myself gravitating maybe naturally to people who, I'm thinking of 4 different people right now, but 2 in particular would be like Maria from Oviedo and Satu from Finland, who both had care backgrounds as well. And I could see the difference in how we were approaching, how we were talking to and about people that our research was about. And I think considering that they're people, and that maybe if I was saying something, I wasn't saying it with the absoluteness of like having done 4 years of a PhD studying in that exact area. So I think our approaches was maybe, it was an interesting learning curve. I wouldn't say it was like, it wasn't a distinct problem because everyone was brilliant. Like we all were mature, handled ourselves well.
Outweighs it,
Exactly, but it was. I thought it was almost more interesting than some of the positives, because it was. I was able to watch that I was like, oh, I'm level in this, even though I feel quite strongly. But there was a really level way that like we were able to negotiate how we didn't just let certain things slide.
Absolutely.
One of our last presentations, I think it might have been our last presentation, I was speaking with the other 2 members of my group, and at the end we got brilliant feedback. It was really good, pat on our back. You know, we worked hard and we're all good in our areas, and they were looking for things to not criticize, but to constructively give us criticism on. And one of the things that was pointed out was that I speak quickly, but I speak slow in Cork.
Yeah, I was shocked. A lot of people thought the Irish spoke fast, but then you hear the Spanish speak.
I know,
like,
but I think it was just something to pick out. And I remember distinctly, like, I was on the stage, I looked down and Agnes was sitting right behind the panel and she just gave me a look and I went, well, as we're speaking about cultural heritage, it's actually part of my cultural heritage as a Cork person to speak quickly. And she was the first, like, clapping her hands and laughing. And I was like, that was the support.
Yeah.
And there was a certain point
like
in
you
that
can
talk.
do anything.
Yeah. And she was looking at you
it.
and you knew that, okay, I know I'm being respectful, I'm being professional, I'm representing in the way that's making everybody look good, but I can also have a personality in this.
Yeah, be yourself.
They're not looking for you to be an automaton, just like doing the process. It's like, okay, cool, put some of yourself into it. If it's humor, if it's your personal interests, and just to know that there was like that type of support. It was really important, and it was something I think you don't necessarily get in a lot of other settings.
Definitely.
Because if you're going to a conference, you're representing yourself.
Suit and tie, yeah.
Yeah, you're on your own, you know, like in a lot of ways. And if you're presenting in class, you don't necessarily get the personal support because there's 30 of you doing the same thing. So it was just quite a unique experience for there to be, in our group anyway, there were 4 of us, and to have 2 mentors who were there willing to go to bat for us at different times.
Yeah, that's such an important
And just being able to look
takeaway.
out and being like, oh, they know where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
They understand it, they're going to vouch for us. But they also understand that we understand what we need to do for them. And it was just a really natural dynamic.
Yeah, they're gifted in support.
Yeah.
I know when I was presenting, they were all sitting in a cluster and I just felt like they were like
waving at you,
yeah,
almost.
You could feel the support. They were so proud and big smiles. They had their cameras out taking videos. It was just really lovely.
And it was just so nice as well. Like we were able to, on one of the final nights, like we were able to go out for dinner with Agnes. And we just had quite a cultural experience. We still have no idea what happened. It was about 8:30. And suddenly the lights in the restaurant went off and everyone started singing a song that sounded somewhere between a national anthem and Happy Birthday. We don't know which one it was. And then the lights went back on again and we were laughing. And then about 10 minutes later they went off again and they were singing the same thing. And it's maybe not the most important like research experience, but to be able to go with somebody who's technically your superior and is like looking after you. And that looking after you isn't just about making sure you get from A to B. It was making sure that like we also had an experience. Like we also had a good time together and a laugh and like.
There's such a good time.
Yeah, and just was really supportive of kind of, you know, there was no text in a group chat kind of being like, be home by 9. It was kind of like,
it was so. Yeah. I have no. I wouldn't change anything about the lecturers and the support from MTU who came with us. I think they made the trip for us. The 5 Irish, myself, Maria, Oisin, Mark, Maeve, and all of the lecturers just got on like a house on fire. Yeah. They really made the week. It was incredible. And even to see the 2 lads now today, it's so nice to know familiar faces and have experienced that together. Yeah. It's a really cool, different thing. Yeah. And even when I came back to college and my classmates, oh my God, how was Finland? And I was like, oh, you just wouldn't understand.
I know, you weren't there, man. Like, it's that like, kind of...
Yeah, it would explain it to them and they'd just be like, cool. Yeah. Just like, oh.
And you're like, no, it's like going on a holiday as a kid and then leaving with a pen pal.
Yeah, it's definitely a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
This is a person that I can't explain to you because somebody would just say, oh, you've met them for a few days. But you're like, I'm going to meet them again. There. Yeah. And you really had to be there. And I think that doesn't always happen. And a lot of it had to do with like all the work that went in before we got there. And like before, like, you know, even deciding who goes, you know. And I think on our team, so shout out to Janita, Karen, and Laura, like we have quite different like disciplinary backgrounds and maybe like understandings of the world, but we were able to gel right away. We had a shared love of research. We had a shared like excitement for the experience. We all kind of gave it everything we had. Sometimes that's not everything, but we also understood that from each other. And yeah, I left with, as cheesy as it sounds, like I left with friends. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is a really amazing way to partake in a program.
It is. It's really amazing that I didn't know anyone I was going over with, but you just instantly make the bond because regardless of whoever is on the INGENIUM experience, at least you have each other. And you're going back to the same hotel and you can have breakfast with them. If everything else goes up in flames, you have each other. And I think that was a really nice kind of grounding source to have. Yeah. As like a base, you have your gang who you went over with.
Did you notice a difference in your work when you came back? Like how you approached things or maybe how you thought about, I know that you were saying you don't really sit exams, you do a lot of like presentations and hand-ups and essays. Did you have a difference in approach coming back? Or did it like strengthen what you already did well?
I just kind of care more. I've always obviously cared about my work. I love my course that I'm doing. But it's just kind of made me really excited for the future and kind of maybe the more corporate side of things. And just, I'm really buzzing to get out into the real world. I hate that term, but I'm excited to put my practices to use. So it definitely has kind of shifted my thought process on everything. Has yours changed?
Yes, it definitely, I think they were all small changes that were maybe happening, but the particular thing was the boot camp of consistent presentations and changing topic and kind of understanding not just that my research in the field I'm in is good and that it's valid and that I can present it. It was just knowing that I had these adaptable research skills. And that was such a confidence changer. And also in my entering, I understood my weak area would have been like formal presentations. Yeah, me too. I'd be more from a creative field. I could talk to you about my practice. I could show you images and I could talk, but structuring them in a presentation that was handed up a few days early or a few hours early and knowing I had to follow that script, that was a skill I kind of came in wanting to improve. And I left really understanding how to develop a narrative through something as dry as like a PowerPoint, but in a way that it gave me space instead of stress.
Yeah.
And the space was then that I could present better. So I did a presentation last week in the one of the graduate research forums, and not to toot my own horn, but it was very good.
Good.
Like it wasn't material that I hadn't worked with or talked about or prepared in some way before I went away to Oviedo. But it was the confidence. And I think the confidence in both what I was showing, but that I had developed a narrative that no matter what happened, glitch on the screen or like fumbling my words, that I was able to follow.
Yeah,
And that was the
definitely.
most important thing. Yeah.
That's definitely something a lot of people struggle with, myself included, as I mentioned earlier. And I think it's one of the most beneficial things coming away from this. Like now, if I have a presentation, I'm just going to picture myself on that stage with the microphone in front of 100 people, and you got this. You know the information, you can present it, you can speak well, and yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, for me, like, that's one of the main things. It was just a confidence in the like reproducibility and the adaptability of the skills I had. But also like circling back is just I think there are some really interesting natural things that show up when you do cultural exchanges that you see. And some of the things that I loved the most about being in the Irish group was just watching how, I think, kindly social we were.
Yeah.
It was a very inclusive,
open and accepting. Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean we're perfect, and it doesn't mean I'm going to be, Mother Teresa, arms open, everyone come and talk to me. I can be very closed off. But there was something to be really proud of in how we entered situations, and I think how we tried, for as much as anybody can try, to always include anybody we could. And I think that also gave a lot of other people space to do that too.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant, yeah.
And on that note, if you do feel nervous or have a problem when you're out there or before you go, the support is in place. So you have those people to talk to, and it might be nerve-wracking because you don't know the people, but just approach them and be like, hey, I'm kind of nervous. Do you want to go for breakfast with me? Do you want to grab a coffee? Do you want to go for a walk? Yeah. People are so friendly, you'd be surprised. That was one of the most surprising. I don't know why I was so surprised by it, but everyone was just, couldn't be nicer.
Yeah, but I think when you're entering it having come from like standard education, directly from standard education, when you're here, I'm pointing at MTU while I say this, everyone has their own lives that work around their study. So when you meet them in college, they might have 4 other things to do that day. And so they can't give you that full attention and full benefit. And maybe their full attention can't be there either. But with the INGENIUM experience, everyone's there with full attention and full effort. And it's not that you're actively trying to develop networks, or to network itself, the dirty word of network, but it happens naturally.
Yeah, you just fall into it.
Yeah, and we're just, I felt very supported to fully give into the experience.
100%.
So that was Nic and I and our conversation about our experiences at the INGENIUM Junior and Senior Winter Schools in 2025. As you just heard, INGENIUM connects students across different universities and disciplines, fostering a sense of community and collaboration beyond borders. It's not just about academics, it's about experiencing new cultures, from ice fishing in Finland to embracing Spanish dining traditions. Through INGENIUM, you'll gain a wide range of valuable skills, including teamwork, problem solving, and perhaps most importantly, public speaking. My biggest piece of advice is give it your all. The more you put into the experience, the more you'll take away from it.